There's an unmistakable migration happening here in Palm Springs. Many couples, especially same-sex couples in their 40s and above, are looking around at the world right now and asking, where can we live happily and simply be ourselves? These are people who have built careers, built families, built lives of their own elsewhere. And yet, for a growing number of them, their next chapter is Palm Springs. I'm Glen, and here's what I've learned after years of helping people make this decision. The right moment is usually sooner than you think. If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Let's dive in. Before we get into the specifics, the first thing people usually want to talk about when it comes to Palm Springs is the climate. We have 300 days of sunshine, mild winters, and gorgeous desert landscapes. All of that is real. But if you're seriously considering where to put down roots, the weather probably isn't the most important question you're asking. The question you're asking is, where do I actually belong? That is a different question entirely, and Palm Springs answers it in a way that almost no other city in America does, especially for same-sex couples. Nearly half of the population here identifies as LGBTQ+. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't a city that tolerates the LGBTQ+ community or quietly accepts it. This is a city that is the LGBTQ+ community. Walking down Palm Canyon Drive, you'll see rainbow flags in almost every window, same-sex couples everywhere you look, and a civic identity that has been shaped by our queer history for decades. So let's explore what's really happening here, why so many people are choosing Palm Springs for their next chapter, and how to think about what this might mean for you. Palm Springs' identity as an LGBTQ+ sanctuary wasn't manufactured by a marketing campaign. It was built over decades, beginning in the early 20th century when the city served as a discreet retreat for Hollywood's elite. The studio system of the 1930s through the 1960s enforced what were called moral clauses, provisions that could end an actor's or director's career over perceived scandal, including homosexuality. For gay and lesbian celebrities, Palm Springs offered something rare and precious: privacy. Gay director George Cukor hosted private gatherings here that became safe, social spaces for the LGBTQ+ creatives. Rock Hudson found relative freedom in Palm Springs, where he could spend time with his partner away from the public scrutiny. Liberace lived here for 25 years. These weren't just vacationers. They were establishing a culture of tolerance and community that would become the foundation of everything you see here today. Then the 1980s arrived. The HIV/AIDS crisis devastated many of the LGBTQ+ communities across the country, but Palm Springs responded. In 1984, DAP Health was founded to provide care, advocacy, and support, long before most public institutions had even acknowledged the epidemic. What that moment did was transform Palm Springs from a passive refuge into an active, organized community. The infrastructure built during that era, healthcare, advocacy, social services, is still here today, and it's one of the most compelling, practical reasons for the LGBTQ+ couples to choose Palm Springs for their retirement. And then came December 2017. Palm Springs made national headlines when it was sworn in as America's first all-LGBTQ+ city council, 5 members including the city's first transgender council member. This wasn't symbolic, it was the culmination of decades of civic engagement. The city maintains an LGBTQ+ liaison through the Office of Neighborhoods, has an LGBTQ+ outreach committee within the Palm Springs Police Department, and even recently declared itself a sanctuary for drag performers, a direct policy response to the legislation spreading through other states. I want you to understand what that means practically. If you move to Palm Springs, your city government looks just like you. Your neighbors look just like you. Your doctors understand your specific needs. This level of built-in safety, understanding, and belonging is genuinely rare, and given the current political climate across much of the country, it matters more than it has in years. Political turbulence, including mounting legislative threats to marriage equality, healthcare access, and anti-discrimination protections, has prompted many Americans to reassess where they live. California has some of the strongest civil rights protections in the country, and Palm Springs takes those protections a step further by building an entire civic identity around them. SAGE, the nation's oldest and largest organization serving older LGBTQ+ people, estimates that by 2030, approximately 7 million LGBTQ+ Americans will be 50 or older. This is a generation that came of age during a period of profound discrimination. Many spent years hiding their identities to hold jobs, serve in the military, or maintain family relationships. As they approach retirement, their housing choices are being shaped by a very understandable and legitimate concern. They don't want to go back to being invisible. An AARP survey found that 41% of older LGBTQ+ adults are concerned about having to hide their identity to avoid housing discrimination as they age. Among transgender and non-binary respondents, that number rises to 58%. These aren't abstract fears. Researchers have documented that LGBTQ+ older adults living in non-affirming environments experience higher rates of isolation, anxiety, and poor health outcomes overall. Palm Springs directly addresses every one of those concerns. And beyond the safety and the policy protections, there is something else happening here that I think is underappreciated: the community itself. For many LGBTQ+ individuals, particularly those who are estranged from families of origin or who don't have children, the concept of chosen family is especially important. Palm Springs has built a rich ecosystem around this. There are social organizations for mature gay and bisexual men, like Prime Timers of the Desert. There's the Palm Springs Gay Men's Chorus and the Modern Men's Chorus. There are gay softball leagues, pickleball leagues, and yes, pickleball is one of the fastest growing social scenes in the city, which tells you something about the average age and priorities of the people moving here. There are book clubs, running clubs, and informal networks that make it generally easy to build a social life from scratch. One writer who relocated here with his husband described it in a way: for the first time they found themselves surrounded by long-term gay couples who had been together for 20 years or more. It was comforting in a way he hadn't expected. There's something deeply meaningful about seeing your own relationship, the kind of enduring, committed partnership that same-sex couples have fought so hard to be allowed to have, reflected all around you. Let's talk about the practical side, because this matters just as much as the lifestyle. The Palm Springs real estate market offers something increasingly rare in California: genuine entry points. Coastal markets like Los Angeles and San Diego, Palm Springs has historically offered more accessible alternatives, with the median sale price hovering around $600,000. And for buyers seeking iconic mid-century modern architecture, which is deeply intertwined with the city's LGBTQ+ heritage and culture, well-preserved examples start around $800,000, with significant upsides in neighborhoods like Movie Colony, Deepwell, and Vista Las Palmas. From an investment standpoint, real estate in inclusive cities commands a measurable premium. Palm Springs, as one of the most LGBTQ+ affirming cities in the country, benefit from sustained demand from full-time residents, part-time residents, and vacation buyers alike. And then there's the rental income opportunity, which brings me to something I talk with clients about in almost every conversation I have. If you have any real desire to retire in Palm Springs, the smartest move is usually to buy your retirement home now and not wait. Rent it out as long as you need, let someone else help pay down the mortgage while equity builds quietly in the background. Then move in when life, work, and your emotional timing all align. The home will be there waiting for you. Palm Springs has a thoughtful short-term rental framework in place that is worth understanding up front. The city requires a vacation rental registration certificate and permit for any short-term rental, and there's a limit on how many homes in a given neighborhood can be permitted, capped at 20% of the total homes in that area. This exists to protect neighborhoods and long-term housing stock, and it's one of the things that keeps Palm Springs from feeling overrun by tourists' chaos the way some other short-term rental markets have. What this means practically is that not every home in Palm Springs qualifies for a short-term rental, which is exactly why we review the neighborhoods and specific rental rules during the first conversation we have. Choosing the right home in the right location, not just any home, is how you make sure the upside of rental income, equity growth, and long-term lifestyle all align with your actual goals. For the right buyer, this strategy has been genuinely life-changing. Beyond the investment case, there is the simple reality of what daily life looks like here, and this is where Palm Springs becomes very difficult to resist. Start with the basics. More than 300 days of sunshine per year, with winters in the 70s that are ideal for outdoor living, world-class hiking in the Indian Canyon and San Jacinto Mountains, accessible via the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway, golf, there are dozens of courses throughout the Coachella Valley, tennis, cycling, pickleball, all with a very strong social scene built around it. Then there's the design culture. Palm Springs is undisputed capital of mid-century modern architecture in the United States. Clean lines, flat plains, large glass walls, and that signature seamless connection between indoor and outdoor living. Modernism Week, held every February, draws tens of thousands of visitors and has a deeply loyal LGBTQ+ following. It is generally one of the great cultural events in the country. The art scene is vibrant. The Palm Springs Art Museum anchors a calendar of galleries, public installations, and a cinema-diverse LGBTQ+ film festival every September. The dining scene ranges from casual poolside fare to exceptional farm-to-table restaurants. And Alice B, the restaurant inside Living Out, the new luxury LGBTQ+ specific retirement community on Tahquitz Canyon Way, is run by James Beard Award-winning chefs. The ongoing event calendar here in Palm Springs almost deserves its own video. Palm Springs Pride in November draws over 125,000 people and includes a parade, parties, and cultural events across the entire city. International Bear Convergence kicks off in January, Splash House runs across hotel pools every summer, and that's just to name a few. Living here means being surrounded by all of this: the culture, the community, the climate, the architecture, and the lifestyle. Palm Springs is not the right move for everyone, and it's worth saying clearly. If your priority is urban energy, walkable neighborhoods with dense restaurant scenes and a constant buzz of the city activity, Palm Springs has a certain charm, but it is fundamentally a small desert city. If extreme heat is a deal breaker for you in July and August, you need to know going in that those months are generally intense. Most people who live here build their lives around the October through May season, and many either leave for part of the summer or plan their outings in the mornings and evenings. This move is for people who want to build a life in a place where being a part of the LGBTQ+ community is simply normal. And it's for people who have spent years building financial stability and are now ready to use real estate not just as a place to live, but as a genuine wealth-building tool. This is a decision for those of you who know that Palm Springs might be part of your future, but who keep putting it on the back burner because the timing doesn't feel quite right yet. If that's you, you might take comfort in knowing that the couples I see who are most satisfied with this decision are almost universally the ones who moved sooner than they thought they were ready to. The ones who waited for everything to align perfectly often missed the window that they were hoping for. On a personal note, I'm a gay man myself who chose Palm Springs as my home. I didn't end up here by accident. I came here because I was looking for exactly what I have been describing to you, a community, where I could build a life of belonging and where my relationships and identity were simply part of the fabric of the place rather than something to navigate around. What I didn't expect was how much my work would become an extension of that experience. Every week I talk with same-sex couples who are at various stages of this exact conversation. Some are researching, some are ready, some just need someone who understands what they're actually looking for. I get it in a way that goes beyond just knowing the market, though I know the market very well. I get it because I've lived it. The questions you're probably asking right now about neighborhoods, about short-term rentals, about what your budget actually buys here, about what daily life generally looks like, those are conversations I have every week, and they're generally my favorite conversations to have, because the people having them are usually on the verge of making one of the best decisions of their lives. If Palm Springs is even on your 10-year horizon, this is worth thinking through now. Not because there's an urgency, but because the decisions you make today about whether to buy, when to buy, and where to buy have a compounding effect that plays out over years to come. The couples who planned ahead and purchased early are sitting on equity and options they wouldn't have had available to them if they had waited. Let's start the conversation. Most people who reach out to me directly aren't ready to move tomorrow. They just want clarity. So if you're buying, selling, investing, or quietly planning a future move to Palm Springs or the Coachella Valley, I'm happy to talk it through with you. You can call or text me directly or use the contact links in the description. No pressure, just perspective. If you haven't yet already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more exciting changes, developments, and opportunities taking place here in Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.